One criticism of Obama's presidency has centered on race relations, a tension that was sparked almost immediately upon his taking office when he hosted that infamous beer summit with Henry Louis Gates Jr. and Cambridge Police Sergeant James Crowley, after Crowley arrested Gates for breaking into his own home, and Obama said police, quote, acted stupidly. Black Lives Matter movement rose up following a number of police shootings. And although he did speak out, as we just heard, after Trayvon Martin's death and several others, it really wasn't until his eulogy following the Emanuel AME church shooting in Charleston, South Carolina, by the way, where the shooter was given the death penalty just today, that many felt he found his voice for the community.
Every time something like this happens, somebody says we have to have a conversation about race. We talk a lot about race. There's no shortcut. We don't need more talk.
And yet a recent CNN ORC poll found that just 16% of Americans feel race relations have gotten better under Obama. 54% say they've gotten worse. You with the 54% or the 16%, Colette?
I am with the 16%.
So what are they missing, that majority?
I think that people tend to forget that President Obama became the president of this country twice. And since it is not a country that is majority people of color, it meant white people voted for him. So I think that what we are seeing coming to the fore is we now have social media. We now are seeing a lot of what has been sort of under the barrel coming up, bubbling up.
You know, you're nodding your head in agreement. My analysis of why those numbers are so horrible is because the expectations were so high. Right. We have a black president. Yeah. We're going to have a post-racial society. Racism is going to disappear when he puts his hand on the Bible and becomes the 44th president. What's your take on why?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right, Jim. I do not think that this is on the president. And he has certainly been out there on these issues in his second term, but I think, yeah, there was this sense that change has come to America. Sure, change has come to America. It was a huge event, but that doesn't mean that some of the issues that Colette talked about, yes, that we're seeing in social media, the perception of a lot of people that Barack Obama is a Muslim, all of that was erased by his presidency. So I think the fact that persists, both white and black people, part of that 55%.
Well, not just that he's Muslim, but that according to his successor, he was born in Kenya up until
that too.
A couple of months ago. My sense was for those like the Cornel West of the world who say, he just hasn't done enough for black people. I'm not talking about that poll now. In some ways, I think his wings were clipped after that Crowley-Gates thing happened so quickly. He spoke from his heart. He actually did think the police in that instance made a mistake. Obviously, we had the beer summit. We all watched it with Biden and Crowley and Gates and Obama. But is your sense that you worked with him closely, is your sense that caused him to back off a little bit or no?
I think it goes to the broader problem I was mentioning before, that I don't think he really got his hands around how you use the office of the president to communicate with the public.
How about criminal justice reform, though? Really matters a lot to not only to African Americans, but also to race relations in this country. He delved headfirst into this thing, from mandatory minimums to the pardons, the commutations, which are not easy for a sitting executive officer to do.
Right, but if you're going to bring the people along, the technical policy debates aren't usually the way to do it. And it's the symbolism. And he kind of
got. It was inspiring at that AME church, or when he said Trayvon Martin could have been my kid.
He's had his moments, but I think he got off to a horrible start with the beer summit. And it's not only that it was awkward. I mean, first of all, to pick about the most privileged black person in the country was a terrible
Gates.
Gates. Yeah, I mean, you have a wealthy celebrity Harvard faculty member, please. And I think after that, I think the message was muddy a lot. I actually think that Michelle Obama did a much better job on race issues than her husband did.
Cam and then Colette.
I think we might all agree that the Skip Gates thing was probably a mistake, and I think that did clip his wings. But I think we've seen in the second term the kind of use of the bully
That's
pulpit
right.
that is exactly what you're criticizing the lack of.
Do you want to add 15 seconds to that?
Yeah, I think the point was that what he was pointing out, that racism doesn't just reflect one group of socioeconomic people, that it doesn't matter because
Even if you're that most privileged professor at Harvard
absolutely.
University.